This is Making Stitches, and this time we hear from Jen Simonic from the Loose Ends Project, an amazing organisation which pairs unfinished craft projects left behind by loved ones with people who have the skills to finish them.
The beautiful thing about this is that it's about fabric and it's about knitting and it's about finishing something off, but it's also about connecting people. And it's about connecting people you didn't know were out there. Most times when a crafter dies, that might be the only person in the family that does something. And there's a lot of guilt too. A lot of people hold on to these projects and they're like, I always thought I would learn to knit so that I could finish this. And the reality is there's a lot of things that all of us do that are creative. And it might not mesh up with what your family does that's creative, and that's okay. We have lots of people out there who this is their favorite thing to do, is knit or crochet or cross stitch or weaving. And you're giving them a chance to help out, which is a really powerful thing.
Hello and welcome to Making Stitches podcast. I'm Lindsay and it's so lovely to have your company today. I've been a crafter all my life and I also trained as a broadcast journalist, so Making Stitches is the perfect excuse for me to bring my two passions together of making and storytelling. Each episode I speak to creative people and I love to hear the stories behind their crafts. This time my guest, Jen Simonic, shares the stories of many of the people and projects which have been brought together through the Loose Ends Project. It started less than 2 years ago when Jen and her friend Masey decided to join forces to help a friend who'd recently lost her mother. As they comforted their friend, they discovered 2 part-made crochet blankets were part of the legacy left by her mum. What has happened since then is nothing short of extraordinary. They now have project finishers signed up in 64 countries around the world, and the completed projects they've been able to help with are in 13 different countries. As you'll no doubt expect, the subject of death and loss is something which comes up from time to time in my chat with Jen, and the subject of suicide is also mentioned. So if that's something that you might struggle to listen to, I just wanted to warn you that it comes up at around the 26-minute mark into this episode and lasts for around 3 minutes or so. So if you want to fast forward through that bit, that might be an idea. So without further delay, here's my chat with Jen Simonic from the Loose Ends Project. First of all, Jen, thank you so much for agreeing to be on Making Stitches and finding a way somehow to be able to speak to me here in the UK from where you are on the west side of the USA. It's fantastic to meet you.
Oh, so glad to be here. And this is actually quite civilized for a time to meet. It's not, I have had many of these meetings in former lives where they've been at like 4 a.m. So this is brilliant. I love 10 a.m. That works great.
Fantastic. So, Jen, the reason why I reached out to you, first of all, was the fact that, I came across the Loose Ends Project a while ago. I saw it on Instagram and thought this was just remarkable. And as I've been following your journey, I noticed that it wasn't just projects in the US. It's crossed to the UK, and then digging deeper, that you've reached 65 countries in total. Is that right, around the world where your projects are being worked on?
We just started putting up stats on our website, which is great because I think a lot of times we have a lot of information about us that can be put together. We've got finishers signed up from 64 countries, from all over the place, like literally all over the place. We do have projects being finished in 13 countries. We just had our first project finished in Switzerland, which was amazing. There's a German woman who lives there and an Italian woman who lives there, and the Italian woman's grandmother helped finish a curtain that someone in the family had made a long time ago. So it is really an international thing. We'd love to see more projects in places that don't speak English, but it's been amazing how it's picked up. And because of the way we match things, we don't really need to be in person. So as long as people check their emails and can get back to us that way, we are yeah, we have crafters will travel.
So, for anybody who doesn't know about Loose Ends Project who might be listening to this, can you tell me what it is and how it first started?
Sure. What this is Loose Ends is a nonprofit based in the United States that matches people with projects left behind by loved ones with finishers who are willing to finish those projects. And those projects can be anything that is thread based. So we do anything from spinning wool if somebody has something. We've never gotten that project, but felting to making a fiber art like knitting or doing cross stitch, all the way up to quilting and sewing garments. And the stipulation is the crafter who originally started had to have an intention to get it done for a family member. They have to have passed away or have lost their ability to craft. So some people, we've had people go blind. We've had people who have severe arthritis that can't work the needles anymore. You can't just don't like. I started this and I just don't want to finish it. That's not that's not what we do.
So, what was the catalyst for actually starting the project?
It's funny. A lot of the process of finishing something for somebody else is something that people have been doing for centuries. People pick up people's work all the time. Might not be noticed as much because it does tend to be for lack of a better description, a woman-based work. Now, that's not to say we don't have magnificent finishers who identify as male. We do, and they're great. But if you look at the statistics on our Facebook page, about 90% of the people who are involved are women. And I think it's because women see this work as valuable. They see it as something that they take time and care to do, and they really identify with it, much like, other things that you are seen as like home economics types of things, like cooking and cleaning, mending and taking care of fabrics and making fabrics. It's a very traditionally female thing. Not to say that men don't do it, and we have finished projects by men as well. But I think that is something that we were able to see the need because it's something that we care about. These projects getting finished and finishing the intent of a person who started the craft is really important to us because we know as crafters at some point we're going to pass away, and it might be in mid finishing of a sweater for a loved one, and to have that be able to be finished and given to that person as a final act is very meaningful to the crafter that I am. So that's not the answer to your question, but let me answer your original question, which is how did we come to do this? And I think where it's going with this was, this is something crafters have always done, but we were at a friend's house. And we had been talking about working together. Masey and I had been talking about working together, and we'd come up with a couple of different ways to do that. And this was one of them, because we thought it would be something that would resonate with people. And our first project was at our friend Patty's house. We have friends in common. My friend Patty's an architect. My husband and Masey's husband both studied architecture. And we always get together as a group over the summer. And this time we were honored to be at Patty's house. Patty's mother had just passed away from cancer, and in the process of going through chemotherapy, she had been crocheting 2 blankets for her sons. Her daughter Patty had already had one. It's a beautiful blanket that just is huge and warm and cuddly, and she had wanted to make sure that each of the boys had their own. So we got the bag that crafters have after they pass away. Some people have rooms of craft supplies. Unfortunately, some people have the bag that they find next to mom's chair. And Patty had her bag and said, "I'm so excited you can go through this and take whatever you want from here." Now, as a crafter, the people listening here, most of the time you don't really want that bag, right? But and it's not because it's not good stuff, or it's just that all crafters I know have too much stuff, and but as people who understand the love and care that came into getting that stuff, it's important that it gets disposed of or put someplace where it can be used. So there's actually a picture of me surrounded by knitting needles, sorting all the knitting needles out for Patty, and making sure she had one of each kind, and like, okay, who's doing a learn to knit class that I can get these to, and how do I how I get this sorted. And as we were going through this, and you're like, here's the cotton for dish rags. Okay, what senior center needs this? Here's the art craft stuff. We can probably get this to a school. We found these 2 blankets, and Patty said, do you think anybody would want to finish them? And that's when I picked it up, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm making a blanket. And now, full disclosure, I do know how to crochet. I love knitting. Crocheting hurts my hand. So I'm looking at this massive blanket to be done in double crochet, and I was like, I guess, okay. And I'm, balloon hands almost went up and said, I'll do it. And Macy's like, maybe this is the project we start with. And Patty agreed, which is a big deal because this is an item in her family that her mom touched and, went through every single fiber that was there. So it was a big deal to finish it. And we said we're going to try to do this, and we'll figure it out. What ended up happening is we went back to our respective homes, and Masey made a website. She's a graphic designer, so and she's done this for nonprofits before. We made flyers, and at some point I went to Maine in October, and I walked around with flyers in hand and pinned them up and tried to get people excited. I put flyers all over the place here in my hometown in Seattle, and put it coffee shops, anywhere that we thought people would see these, like it. Yarn shops, funeral parlors, hospice centers, synagogues, churches, all the places we thought somebody might need to see this. And within about a month, we had 150 volunteers.
Wow.
Which is startling, and 5 projects. And then, the internet was really helpful. We had people signing up on the internet through Google spreadsheets, and that was, that was a good start to do it. By the time February came along, we had over 5,000 finishers and about 100 projects. At that point, my neighbor Mark was like, "You got to get out of the spreadsheets. We got to figure out how to get an app going for you on the website." And lucky for us, he and a bunch of very great volunteers put together an app for us, so that now when a finisher comes in, they sign up on the app through the website, and we can now, like, if I get a project in Montclair, New Jersey, I can put in Montclair, New Jersey, and then it'll show me all the finishers around there that can do that project. Everything's done over email, so I'm not sitting here with a horde of projects that I'm holding on to. The idea is that we're matching people locally, because it's really important that that item that is very precious to the person who has it isn't going too far away. Now, that being said, sometimes our projects are very specific. Like, we have a lot of rug projects, and we probably have about 500 rug makers in our cadre of finishers, and sometimes those projects need to be sent away. But we try our best to keep things local, so that we save on gas, packaging, shipping, and it's also really nice to have those people make that connection. That's a big part of it, is that you're connecting with somebody you didn't know before that can help you.
Absolutely. And it's such a gift of time as well, isn't it? Because these things a blanket doesn't happen overnight. It takes real commitment on the part of the maker. So, I mean, presumably some friendships have come out of this between people who've given up their time and then the people who've benefited from the things that have been finished.
Definitely. Friendships have been formed, and that's the beautiful thing about this is that it's about fabric and it's about knitting and it's about finishing something off, but it's also about connecting people. And it's about connecting people you didn't know were out there. Most times when a finisher dies, that might be, or when a crafter dies, that might be the only person in the family that does something. And there's a lot of guilt too. A lot of people hold on to these projects and they're like, I always thought I would learn to knit so that I could finish this. And the reality is there's a lot of things that all of us do that are creative, and it might not mesh up with what your family does that's creative, and that's okay. We have lots of people out there who this is their favorite thing to do, is knit or crochet or cross stitch or weaving. And you're giving them a chance to help out, which is a really powerful thing. I don't think, if you don't have a chance to volunteer or you don't have a chance to be the person who's the helper, it's a really powerful feeling. I would venture to say there's actually a chemical reaction that goes on in your brain that releases oxytocin. It makes you feel good, and people having the ability to help using the craft that they love is just it's a gift to them as well as a gift to the person who's getting the project. So I'm not surprised that friendships form, and they do form often. And we get a lot of coincidences because people are local will hear, oh, I went to the same college and we were in the same house. And this is, that's the kind of fun thing that you find from this, is that all of these neat little happenstances come together to make an interesting story and a fun need of, like, there's a lot of, like, my eyes are green and her eyes are green and her last name is Cheryl, and like lots of things that make people happy about the connection, which is great. And a lot of times, I mean, I don't know about the situation in the UK, but we're pretty polarized right now, and being able to look out into your community and find somebody who is willing to help kind of transcends all the politics and all the religious stuff, and it becomes this nice way to identify people as, you're a human, I'm a human, we're both going to express, we're both going to have grief happen sometime, and I'm here to help you through that. In the way that I know how. No, none of us are counselors, but we're making an object that can be a physical, tangible memory of that person.
Absolutely, it's you're very right, very true. We're in the middle of a general election at the moment, and as I'm recording this, and the things that you're hearing and seeing on a regular basis on your phone and on the television and whatnot, it's just a project like this reminds you that at the end of the day we are all human. We all go through this journey of life together, and what a wonderful way to help your a fellow citizen who's going through a tough time or has recently lost somebody really close to them, and it just gives them a bit of that loved one back, doesn't it? To think that
it does, yeah.
You've got this at the end of the day. Now, I believe you've been running 2 years. Is that right?
Not yet. We will be 2 years in August.
Wow. Okay. So that's a relatively short period of time to have gone from two friends coming up with an idea to being around the world.
It has happened very fast, and we are scaling, and we are trying our best to get everything into just to scale. We have been. Masey calls it she says we have an invisible board that's up there trying to match things together. I mean, who am I to argue with her on that point? There's a lot of times where when we went through the process, I was like, how is this going to work? We had talked to Joanne Fabrics, which is a big fabric craft store here in the United States. They have about 840 stores, and they came to us and said, hey, do you want us to match your GoFundMe? Do you want supplies? Do you want stuff? And we were naive enough to say, well, we know that you do roundup at the counter. Could you do that for us? And they were like, well, are you a nonprofit? And we were like, not yet, because we were just doing this as just a fun thing to do and an organized thing to do. And we became a nonprofit. We got a law firm to donate their time to set us up as a nonprofit. And when they said it, they were like, we've set this up for you, but it could take up to 6 to 8 months for the IRS, the tax organization here in the United States, to sort this out for you. And it took a week and a half.
Wow.
So, and it's funny because when I had to deal with Washington State taxes and things like that, in Washington State, when you call, it's a government organization. You never know. 201 people who I talked to are like, we heard about your project. This is so cool. We're really excited to help you. Let us know if you need anything. So I think it hits home with a lot of people. A lot of people think about this and go, I thought that already existed. And they're really happy about it. I mean, the people who know crafters understand how important this is, and the people who have these objects are delighted. They didn't think there was gonna it's one of those things that there's a lot of mental work that's done around cleaning out somebody's house, getting everything done, and having a place for this particular problem is it's nice. It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think because it's a nice, good feeling, that's one of the other reasons we took off, because there's not a lot of nice news these days. And the fact that we have 25,000 finishers saying, I want to help, it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's beautiful.
Yes, it is. It truly is. It's remarkable. You're listening to Making Stitches, a podcast celebrating creative crafts and inspiring makers. This podcast is supported by the Making Stitches shop on Etsy, where you can find Making Stitches podcast tote bags, badges and stitch markers, along with a few of my crochet patterns for sale too. Just search for Making Stitches shop on Etsy. Now back to more creative chat. Have you got any particular, have there been any projects that have stood out to you that as being particularly special? Because, I know everyone will be special, but is there anything in particular that stands out to you?
That's kind of the fun part. Masey and we have a part-time person, Sarita, who's been working with us. We all go through the projects, and as we match these projects, I'm always reminded that people are like, hey, should I sign up to be a finisher? I'm not very good. I need to remind you that not everybody who passes away with a project is an expert at these things. We have a lot of double crochet blankets, or, chevron blankets, or, really basic stockinette stitch things, or, a beginner cross-stitch kit. You don't have to be a phenomenal crafter to help us. So as we go through these projects, we do find things like, oh gosh, we've had stunning things like the needlepoint project that was one of the cloisters wall hangings, like the unicorn things. Like, it looked like that. It wasn't. That would be a different podcast altogether. But so we've had beautiful things like that. And we've had things like a bag of styrophones and little tiny scarves and hats that a grandma was making little snowmen for everybody. Oh. Now, that might not seem like something you might value, but everybody was supposed to get one, and we were able to make sure everyone got one. And we got this beautiful picture back of everybody sitting with their snowmen at a holiday season. So that was pretty special. From the quilt that a grandmother was making for an infant, and it hadn't been finished, and now that I think that 8-year-old is now enjoying a quilt that actually had 2 finishers. It had a finisher who set everything up and then broke her arm, unfortunately, but then was able to pass that project in a more organized fashion to another finisher, was able to finish the whole thing and use the supplies that the other one had amassed. So, and and the list goes on. I mean, we had a beautiful, the first project in the UK was a meerkat that somebody was making for their husband, a little doll. It was adorable. We've had sweaters being finished. We had a Princess Di sweater that was so incredibly tight that became a project that we had to have multiple finishers on. And finally, somebody just took the bottom band and then made a sweater out of the rest of it and made it a little looser. But we also work with people. One time we had a project that was going to be this beautiful tulip sweater that, you know, in the 1980s, I would have been rocking that sweater. That would have been great. It was in tarja tulips, but maybe not so fashionable now. So what the finisher and the project owner decided is, we'll take that beautiful back piece that Mom made and turn it into a baby blanket so that future generations can appreciate the work she did, but also it could be a usable object. So many things like that. We also have people who pass away too soon by suicide, or, you know, we have moms who have lost children, which is terrible and horrible, but by finishing the last object that child was making, we give them a tangible thing that they can hold. We had this piece that was a rainbow, and it had holes. It was a beginner piece. This person was trying very hard to make this, and then ended up taking her own life. And the mother had this and wanted it to be finished. And when we got it, I said, okay, we can maybe make this a blanket. We can maybe make this a pillow. And the finisher made granny squares in such a way that the piece became a rainbow. And it was this beautiful queen size. I didn't realize how big it was at first, and it has since told us to ask more questions about things. But she made this beautiful queen size quilt, and the mother said, I think people hang things like this on the wall. And I was like, yeah, they can, or you can keep it close so that, you know, when you need to be reminded of her, you can wrap yourself. And she was like, oh yeah, that's what I'll do. So and that was really powerful, because now that woman has something that she can wrap around herself to remind her of her daughter.
That's amazing.
Some really beautifully sad things to some really edifying things. Like, we had a finisher we had an original crafter who went blind and was giving away her stash, and one of the things she gave away was a complicated kit that she had started with that had a really complicated double color pattern. And her friend heard about us, and the woman who gave away the kit was like, just rip it apart. It's really good yarn, but just rip it apart. I'm never going to be able to finish it. And that friend was able to find us, and we gave it to a finisher who turned that into the sweater it was meant to be. And we were able to get it back in time for the woman who lost her sight's birthday. And she was just like, I was really good at this. This was like the hardest thing I ever made. And now I can show people that I had some skill in this, and that made me really like cry. but it was really, you know, it's really lovely.
What an amazing...
We had groups of people do things. Like, we had a comforter with puffs. I don't know if your listeners are old enough to remember the 70s when we had the circle. We had a circle of fabric, and we would pull the stitches through and make a little puff. I don't know what they're really called, but we had a original crafter who was sewing them onto a pre-made comforter. So all these puffs were all over it, and a group of women who lived in the same, like, not a group home or like a group living kind of situation, all worked together, finished this project, invited the family over, and they said they felt like superstars, because they were walking in and they were like, are you the girls who are picking up the project? The women are working really hard on it. And we had like 7 people who were experiencing the joy of like this project being started and finished and back to the family. And it was a really nice memory of the woman who had started it.
That is so nice.
There's lots of, I mean, if there's one, there's hundreds, if not thousands of stories.
Absolutely. Sorry to put you on the spot, but they are so so nice. Now, when you get a project handed to you, um, presumably some of them will come part made with a pattern and with all the supplies that are needed to finish it. But
God willing.
but certainly I can imagine that's not always the case. How do you go about finishing something that maybe is a half-made sweater and you've only got a little bit of yarn left, which isn't nowhere near enough to actually finish it, or you don't know the pattern because it might be something that's been handed down from generations. How do you actually go about trying to make something meaningful out of something like that?
That is an excellent question because, if it's a chevron Afghan, you can be like, all right, let's just go. We'll find a finisher who is familiar with that easy pattern. A lot of times everything's there because when you go to make something, you get the stuff you need to make that thing. However, sometimes after someone passes away, the extra materials, the pattern gets separated from the object itself, and that happens a lot. A lot of times our project owners don't really know what a person's doing. Like, I'll get something and say, my mom was knitting, and I'll look and I'm like, that's not knitting. Like Tunisian crochet, which is sometimes called the Afghan stitch in crochet, is not knitting, but it looks like it because you have a lot of live stitches at the same time. Let me just preface this with, I used to think I was an expert knitter. I've been knitting since I was 6, which makes me a knitter for 48 years. So you'd think I'm an expert. However, I'm not. There are some things that I just don't know how to do. I have learned so much after starting this. I can see something and kind of figure out what things are. But when we started this project, we also started something called a finisher group. And our finisher group are these people who are finishers. It's a private Facebook group, and we use Facebook just because it's really conducive for this type of a group. We let anybody who's a finisher in, and they can talk about their crafts. They can talk about the stuff they're doing for other charities if they're showing off work. We love when people show off their work. But what we will do is, if I have a project that's particularly difficult to match, like I've tried to match it a couple times and people are like, oh, I don't know that, I will post it in the finisher group. If a project doesn't have a pattern, I'll post it in the finisher group. Sometimes when I post in the finisher group, I will get a notice saying, oh, I think I've seen that. That's definitely crochet. And then within an hour, I might have, I think that pattern was in this magazine that came out in 1942, and I happen to have it in a closet somewhere. Let me look for it. And then within 24 hours, we have somebody who says, I couldn't find the pattern, but I'll write it up for you, and this is what it looks like, and I'd be willing to do that. Or, oh, hey, it looks like you're using this thread that I have extra of. Our finishers are amazing. I like to think of them as like the Scoobies. They're out there fighting crimes and solving mysteries.
Fantastic. Crimes
Maybe
against unfinished crafts.
The crime of unfinished craft. But they do help a lot. They do. We couldn't do this without them, obviously. Like, they're the ones finishing the projects, but they're also the ones out there keeping us in check. Like, I'll post something and say, it's this knitting, and people will be like, no, that's hairpin lace. And, they'll send me some videos on it so I can get better at my job, which is great. There are people who I send the projects to, and I'm like, hey, can you do this? And they're like, no, without a pattern. And then there's people who are like, I could definitely do this without a pattern. So that's why we ask. We never just send the project to somebody. That would be cruel. I mean, that's not nice. Everything's done by email. So first we get all the information that we can from the person who might not know how to craft. And then we send out an introductory email. saying, hey, are you interested in this? And they can say yes, or they can say no, or they can ask a couple of clarifying questions. And then once they say, yes, this is definitely something I can do, we then match them via email with the project owner, and they arrange meeting up and arrange all the stuff. And if they need extra supplies, Joann's has been very, very, very generous with getting us supplies. They also, any cost of the project whatsoever, whether it be you had a quilt and we needed extra fabric and batting, that goes on the family that's getting the project back. They pay for those materials because we're already providing the finisher skills. The finisher's already providing that. But in the rare case that we can buy something, Joann's has stepped in when there was a real need, and the internet has helped. I mean, there's things like Ravelry where we were able to find some yarn that somebody needed in somebody's stash and buy it from them. And usually it's at cost, or they just give it to us because of the project. People really, gosh, they're so generous and really just want to help.
That's marvellous. If somebody's listening to this and they want to give their time and love to a project that needs to be finished, what should they do?
So they should definitely go to our website, which is www.looseends.org, O-R-G, because we're a nonprofit. They should go in there. They should sign up to be a finisher. We always need more finishers. I like to think of it as the Red Cross. If I'm trained to do hurricane cleanup, and I'm sitting here in Seattle, I'm probably not going to be very useful in Seattle, but maybe we'll have a hurricane someday and they'll need me at that point. So I know 25,000 people sounds like a lot of people, but people's lives change. People have different skills. We currently, I think we have over 35 craft skills listed. Wow. So, you might be the bobbin lace maker that we need in Missoula. You might be the hand quilt applique person we need in Derry. You never know. Like any place, we might have a craft emergency and we might need your help. So please sign up if you want. If you have a project, we have a lot of finishers who are expert cross stitchers, but they might not be knitters. They have a project, you can submit it online on our website. If you are so inclined to donate, this happens because we have 2 full-time people working and 1 half-time person working, and we're trying to scale up our tech so that we can make it a little easier. So that's an important way. We do take donations via our website as well. The one thing we don't take is stash, as much as we'd love to help people, but we do have a page on our website where all the different types of places that take the donations are. We have them for the UK, Canada, and the United States. If you take craft donations and you want to be on that list, just let us know. Send us an email at info@looseends.org. And if there's any people out there that have coding skills and want to help in a technical fashion, we'd love your help too. Just let us know and send us an email.
Oh, Jen, that's been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. It's been fascinating to hear about Loose Ends Project and your work, and what an amazing thing to do for people.
It has been really rewarding, and I can't believe I get to say that this is my job now. It's been a whirlwind, and it's just so fabulous to be able to bring this service to people and be able to be my work, which is great. So thank you so much for having me on. My partner Masey is currently in Maine working away on figuring out our posts and how to do things. So it's really a 2-person job, and we're just both really thrilled and excited to be able to do it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, Jen. Thank you.
No problem.
My sincere thanks to Jen for speaking to me for Making Stitches podcast. I've put all of the links to find out everything you need to know about the Loose Ends project in the show notes for this episode. You can find those on the app where you're listening to this and on the Making Stitches website too. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Making Stitches. If you've enjoyed it, please share it with your friends, and if you feel so inclined, please leave a rating and review on your podcast app of choice, as that will help more people find Making Stitches podcast in future. Thanks again for listening. I'll be back again in 2 weeks' time with another inspiring creative chat, this time focusing on a rather overlooked section of the craft community. I'll share more with you on that in a fortnight's time. Until then, do take care of yourself and enjoy your crafting.